What up, y'all? I've been reading this book called "It's Good to Be a Man." I really recommend it. It's like talks a lot about, you know, masculinity, true masculinity from a biblical perspective. It's an amazing book. It will give you a completely different like idea on like what masculinity is, especially if you've, you know, watched a lot of these Andrew Tate videos or anything like that. Like it's gonna give you a different perspective. So I really recommend looking that up. But anyways, in that book, it basically kind of describes that there's two types of masculinity or two different directions that men go in when they are searching to be masculine. And basically, what it talks about is, there's basically protectors and there's takers, right? So protectors, you know, look for systems that are like they look essentially to protect other people, right? And takers look to, take things from other people. And both, it's tricky because both feels masculine, right? Like if there's like for example, if you go to the hood, maybe there's a lot of people where their version of masculinity is to take things from other people, stealing, you know, just taking another dude's woman. Like there's just taking becomes the main form of showing strength, just taking things from others, right, without following rules. And then there's protecting, right, finding a system that is already in order and then protecting it and preventing it from becoming disorderly, or building up a system that is orderly and then preventing it becoming disorderly, right? Like, so there's two types of ways, and it's very tricky in modern society because we don't see a lot of opportunities to protect things, right? A lot of the women have built themselves up in arrogance, right? And they've built up this ego, and built up all this kind of sin and like sexual promiscuity, or if, at the very least, they're trying to basically build their ego off of photos on Instagram, getting likes and stuff like that. So what happens is that we don't learn this protection method. The only thing we learn is basically, I don't want to say take in this instance, but degrade. We learn to degrade women. I feel like that's why there's certain things in society that really appeal to men, like especially on like pornography. Like there's certain things that really appeal to men, like let's say he goes to the public restroom, some video about guy in the public restroom gets a oral sex or whatever. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, on the restroom floor or something like that. And like this appeals to many modern men. And the reason why is because we're in a system to where degrading women is the form of masculinity. And it's not all completely our fault. A lot of it is because women built up this arrogance and degraded themselves, so the only way for us to contend with them is to feel like we need to degrade them too. That's the only way for a man to feel like he can kind of essentially make the woman feel like it's his own, right? But there's another type, and that's protecting, right? So if you find a woman who is a really good woman, came from a really good family, and she doesn't hang out with guys, she doesn't drink, she doesn't like loud environments, she doesn't follow trends, she doesn't do anything of those things, you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want her. For example, that example I made about getting some oral sex on the bathroom floor, you wouldn't want her in the restroom doing that. That would feel degrading because the restroom is a dirty place. You wouldn't want her on the floor like that. That would be dirty, right? And you wouldn't want a good girl to do that. But the problem is, we're we see women with these egos, and the only way for the only natural way for us to deal with it is by essentially taking our ego and trying to add fuel to the fire. We try to knock down their ego with our ego, right? That's the natural way of doing it. But it's better if you just find a woman who's good and then invite her to protect her, right? Invite her in to protect her. And a lot of the times, you know, you got to be wise, because you can't find these girls that have a bunch of, you know, of this kind of where they've essentially degraded themselves. You can't really invite them in because to protect them, because it's like they've already I don't think that they will necessarily accept it, and you will feel kind of like an idiot. It's possible, you know, that there's some sort of way to break them down to where they become humble, but I don't know how you can do it. And I don't know. I mean, if you're up to taking on that challenge, but it's better, I think, to find a good woman who just does not like, you know, attention. Maybe she has no profile pic on her Instagram, private profile. You know, she follows a bunch of accounts related to memes or you know, history or science or something other than just trying to get all these followers. You know, you want that type of woman, and then you can learn protective masculinity rather than taking and degrading, right? Because I mean, like I'm saying, I don't think it's necessarily our fault. I think this society has prompted us to do that. Like, because a woman that degrades herself is turned on by being degraded. Like, and if they're not, then there's just something wrong with them. Because, like, it's like, why would they degrade themselves and then expect to be treated like, you know, treated like a lady, like by a gentleman? It just doesn't really make sense. But yeah, society is very effed up. It's a very effed up place, and you know, you shouldn't have to feel like you're a man. You have to degrade women just to be a man, right? And I think the problem is that a lot of the time, you know, being a protector, it doesn't feel as manly because you don't actively go out trying to show your strength. You don't just go to the basketball court and start picking fights with people. Like when you're the protector, you don't get a lot of chance to show how strong you are, because most of the time you're not showing your strength. But that's why you want to work on it on the you know, on your downtime. You know, read books about how to persuade people, sales, like, you know, how to deal with manipulation, like how to argue, how to have strong frame, how to have good tone. Like, you want to read all these stuff on your off time, or like when you're not around other people, so that you can have that strength harnessed and ready to go. But yeah, like, I think the problem is it really starts with households, right? Like, these men, a lot of them don't have a strong father. A lot in our society, a strong, loving father, so they don't really learn the value of protecting others as their form of masculinity. So they just learn to go out and take things. That's their only strength. Lie, cheat, steal. And a lot of even good dudes fall into this trap, right, where they don't wanna they don't understand the purpose, for example, of waiting till marriage to have sex. You know, it's better just go take it, you know, just go, not like take it like forcefully, but I mean saying they just want to get there as quick as they can. And it's all this lack of patience, because you're not thinking like a protector, you're thinking like an aggressor. Like, you just need to go get things. But it's like, I don't know, I mean, society is messed up. It makes us like that. It really makes us like that. But look for a system that you want to protect. Go find a woman who's never been on a date if you can. Like, go find a woman who's shy, someone who's scared of hanging out with men, someone who just likes to stay at home. See if you can protect them, and leave the country if you have to. I mean, I'm trying to go to Russia. I'm not sure, obviously every country's got its modern women these days, but I don't know. I'm trying to go there, Russia, Ukraine, or something like that. Go out to some village or something and find a woman, Christian woman. But um but yeah, I feel like that's how society went from protecting to taking and degrading. And we don't have to do that. We don't have to be a taker and degrader, in order to feel like a man, right? Okay, peace out.